o'clock news starts right now with a breaking news alert.
Tonight on the 10 o'clock news, tracking Milton as we prepare to feel the impact from this powerful, now Category 5 storm in just about 24 hours. Here's a live look at our roads. This is I-95 near mile marker 374 in Yulee. Lanes are full of drivers from across the state trying to evacuate after these strong warnings from leaders along the Gulf.
If you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
If you choose to stay, you're staying at your own risk.
St. Johns County is the only county in Northeast Florida under a mandatory evacuation order tonight. Other counties like Nassau, Clay, Putnam, Flagler, they're either strongly encouraging or recommending evacuations for people in low-lying or flood-prone areas and those living in RVs and mobile homes.
Yeah, Duval County does not have any evacuation orders in effect at this time. We're expecting to feel the heaviest impact between midnight tomorrow until about noon Thursday. And we want to remind you there's a ticker coming up at the bottom of your screen. We're going to have the latest preparations, school closures, and shelter information for you.
Our team is getting you ready to feel those impacts. We want you to get right to Chief Meteorologist Richard Nunn with the very latest on Milton. Richard.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys were talking about the zones here. And I've had a lot of questions here since the end of our 7 o'clock where the phone bank closed, and it had to do with evacuations. Here's where I am. Here's where I am. Unfortunately, I don't have an evacuation map that is built into our system, so I can't illustrate that. But I did make something that will help you and also guide you to the site that's going to give you a lot more information. And one more to add to that list, Union County, also not under mandatory, but it's encouraged that if you're in a building that you don't feel safe in, manufactured home, older mobile home, surrounded by trees, things like that, that you may also want to find yourself heading over, maybe staying with a neighbor or friend, someplace that you might feel a little bit more secure. I've combined the hurricane along with the spaghetti models, and what we've seen here over the last several hours is a little bit of a shift to the south. So earlier, if you were with us at 5 o'clock, the consensus really was directly into the bay here, and coming up from this angle is absolutely the worst scenario because of the way that the bay is shaped. By having it sink down a little bit, we actually have the potential for more of an offshore wind, which would create a Debbie-esque kind of effect here, and that could actually blow part of the bay back out into the Gulf of Mexico. Remember when that went down to where you could see the sand below the bay? With that shifting to the south, it takes some of the sting out of what we're going to see, but it really does place it over areas that have already been walled by multiple storms, from Ian last year into both, you had Debbie that had some issues, Ernesto, and then with Helene coming through anywhere from Naples, Fort Myers, and all the way through. So this is still the 8 o'clock update. We had your live update there during the shows, 165 mile an hour wind. I'm eager to see what we have as far as the wind. Did that increase again? Because we saw the barometric pressure drop twice at 5:30 and then again with the 8 o'clock update. So that should be a lift in the wind. The models are all of them. Every single one still shows this weakening trend to come through as Milton starts to interact with that frontal boundary and the drier air that's going to come punching out of southeast Georgia. But the timeline, as you guys were saying, the worst of it for us starts to settle in after midnight. We're back into the dark hours with the storm overnight and through around midday here Thursday before it exits the beaches and starts to put some distance between us and it. We'll have the next full update at 11 o'clock, but we'll dig a little bit deeper into Milton. A lot of your questions dealing with evacuations, the storm surge, just how much wind and how much rain. We're going to break that down in just about 10 minutes.
All right, Richard, thank you. Well, downtown St. Augustine is included in that mandatory evacuation order in St. Johns County, and businesses have been taking steps to prepare for possible flooding along the bayfront. News4Jax reporter Alicia Hatcher joining us live. Alicia, you were just out there last night, so how does it compare to what you're seeing tonight?
Joy, is completely, totally different from just yesterday. Now I'm on Cathedral Place. I was on King Street last night, and so those business owners were prepping for the storm. But now business owners on Cathedral Street, Cathedral Place, they have placed sandbags, they have boarded up windows, they have taped everything. Now I heard something about this tape that I didn't know, but they said they placed this tape to board around their windows and doors because it helps seal those spots to help them to prevent from water coming in. And they have, they place the sandbags normally, but they are adding on new measures to prevent the flooding from coming in. Damaging winds, heavy rain, and flooded roadways are expected across St. Augustine in the next 48 hours as Hurricane Milton arrives. This will not be the first storm to bring these conditions to the area. Over the last few years, hurricanes like Matthew, Nicole, and Ian ripped through the area, causing heavy flooding and damage. One of those storms was the first Peace, Love, and Little Donuts had to endure.
We've only been open almost 2 years. Our fourth day of business, we had Hurricane Nicole, and we kept out some water then.
Owner Jennifer Goodrich hopes by their prepping, they won't experience any serious damage. How are you guys prepping for the storm?
So this is not our first storm that we prepped for, so we feel like we've gotten really good at prepping. We have almost 100 sandbags between our front and our back entrance.
They also added tape to seal their doors, among other measures, to make sure their business remains the same. Goodrich, along with other business owners here in the area, are hoping to reopen their doors on Friday, and they also are hoping for less of an impact. For now, reporting live in St. Augustine, Alicia Hatcher, Channel 4, the local station.
Thank you, Alicia. Now, the city of Jacksonville is encouraging people to have their plans in place ahead of the storm. News4JAX reporter Ariel Schiller explains how the city is preparing.
Unfortunately, Hurricane Milton has re-energized and back to a Category 5 hurricane. It will continue to be a major hurricane upon making landfall.
The city of Jacksonville is adjusting to the delayed arrival of Hurricane Milton. But Mayor Donna Deegan says regardless of its arrival, you should still have a plan to ride out the storm in a safe place.
We're asking you to stay off the roads decide where you're going to shelter as soon as possible and stay there. And please try to stay off I-95, I-295, or I-10 as those interstates are jammed with folks who are trying to get out of harm's way.
Alex Booth with the National Weather Service gave an update on the storm during the City of Jacksonville's 6 p.m. news conference Tuesday.
We still anticipate getting rain that could result in some flooding concerns in the area across Duval County, but the surge is going to be still a huge impact. It's driven by wind.
Mayor Deegan says there are no gas shortages in Jacksonville, but if it does become an issue during the storm, the city has solutions in place to help with that. But hotel rooms are in short supply because of the amount of evacuees coming from Tampa and Central Florida.
And I hope that we will remember that a lot of those folks that are coming up from the Tampa area or the areas just around Tampa will be coming into our hotels. So please be accommodating to those folks. I'm sure they're scared.
In Jacksonville, Ariel Schiller, Channel 4, the local station.
And again, City of Jacksonville not issuing an evacuation order right now, but they do advise people who live in trailers and older homes or in low-lying areas consider going to a shelter or other accommodations. You can go to jaxready.com/Milton and get more information from the city. Mayor Deegan will give another briefing about local preparations for Hurricane Milton tomorrow at 12:05. We'll bring it to you live during the newscast here on News4JAX. You can also watch it live on News4JAX Plus or news4jax.com.
Do you know your zone? Well, we've made it easy for you to check your address. All you have to do is go to news4jax.com/hurricane. And this is what you'll see. Next, you want to click on Know Your Zone. It's right here in the center. Once you click on that, it'll take you to the next page. And there, you're going to find a link. Get rid of that ad. You're going to find a link to floridadisaster.org. There you see it right here in the middle, floridadisaster.org. Click on that. And then next, you're going to click on Hurricane Milton updates. It'll basically walk you through. Very easy. Just read. You see updates right here. And then scroll down. You will see where you go to next. Know your home, know your zone. Click on that. Scroll down. You're looking for the map. So it says click Know Your Zone map. Click on that. Now, this is a very large file. It'll take a while to upload, but you'll be able to zoom in and see your particular zone. Here you see the Jacksonville area. You can also take a shortcut and over here type in your address or just your zip code, and it will show you whether or not you are in an evacuation zone.
A reminder for families, all the schools in our area will be closed tomorrow ahead of the storm. Putnam, Clay, Nassau counties, those will be closed tomorrow and Thursday. With a decision about class on Friday, that'll be made later in the week. Duval, St. John's, and Flagler schools will be closed tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. And as we learn about more closures, we'll update you on newsforjax.com/hurricane. You'll also find all this information in the scrolling bar that you see right there at the bottom of your screen. Another reminder, there is a ticker there at the bottom of the screen. Latest preparation, school closures, and shelter information.
Our team constantly monitoring and updating that ticker so we can get you the very latest information. Meanwhile, show us how you're preparing for the storm. If you can safely take photos and videos, upload them to the Weather Channel on Snapjacks, your uploads help our weather coverage. You may even see what you upload in our newscasts or online.
Just a few hours ago, we hosted a News4JAX Help Center phone bank for people to call in and ask questions about how to prepare for Hurricane Milton.
If you didn't get a chance to call, do not worry. We are answering some of the frequently asked questions we received today. Next at 10.
Pro wrestling fans, the stars are on, going ringside.
I'm honored to be here, so thanks for having us.
Can I get a woo? Woo! The top guy on the planet, Swerve Strickland.
Who's out Swerve's house? Right here.
The icon himself, Jerry the King Lawler.
It's good to think that, and it's good to hear you say that.
The star herself, AEW Women's Champion, Timeless, Toni Storm.
Well, it's the hot new thing, shaking up the whole wrestling world.
We're going to have a lot more megastars all year long.
What are you doing up there? Staying alive.
Go get your freak out.
That's spooky.
Young Sheldon, weeknights on CW17.
Local news is most important. I'm raising a family here. I'd like to stay up to date on everything.
I'm so glad you were able to come in. This is our meeting for the evening. This is our News4JAX insider, Lauren, throwing out story ideas.
I was led through an incredible experience. I did feel a lot of transparency and authenticity. I had no distrust when it came, so I only am more impressed now.
See more of Jacksonville like never before without leaving your couch. Real-time views of local communities that matter to you. Zoom in on events from the Gate River Run to the biggest shows in town. Or experience sunrise and sunset in a brand new way. Explore every day on the app or newsforjax.com/skycam. Stay connected and discover the world around you from above. Skycam Network. Choose your view. Exact Track 4D. Tracking and dissecting storms down to your street.
Business is booming in the River City. What's driving the money here? And how can that growth impact your pockets? This week in Jacksonville Business Edition, streaming on News4JAX Plus.
Become a local VIP with News4JAX Insider. Behind-the-scenes access, live Q&As with anchors, exclusive weather tools, first dibs on local discounts and events. Sign up and sign in to News4JAX Insider. Channel 4, the local station. The Weather Authority alert.
Our Help Center phone lines were open so we could answer your questions about Hurricane Milton.
Now we want to share some of the frequently asked questions and the answers so you can be prepared. First, will the bridges close?
Yeah, right now all bridges are open. Florida Department of Transportation, they work closely with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and Florida Highway Patrol. They monitor wind conditions. If sustained winds exceed specified levels, generally 40 miles per hour, that's when the bridges will close. And we'll keep you updated if they close as well. Next question. How will my trash pickup be affected?
Well, in Jacksonville, solid waste pickup will continue tomorrow as long as it's safe to do so. Thursday collection, that's been rescheduled to Saturday. Friday collection is anticipated to happen as normal. We know this doesn't cover all of your questions. We do want to remind you about our Help Center, so scan this QR code to access that free resource. We've got more answers to your frequently asked questions, plus a place for you to ask more questions that we don't already have the answers posted to.
At this point, we want to bring Chief Meteorologist Richard Nunn into our conversation, answering some of the more questions with us. And one of the questions we receive a lot is, what can we expect in terms of storm surge in our area?
Yeah, it's been a very popular question, so let's go ahead and cover that, and I'm going to help you out. Joy just did it a second ago. I'm just going to take it just one more step here so that you can get to the website to find where you are, because I've answered a lot of questions everywhere from up around River City Marketplace, southward into areas of St. Johns County, Putnam County also hit me up with some questions, and now that we're seeing that surge warning all the way up through Brunswick, I've been getting questions from anywhere around Nassau, out through Amelia, and the chain here of islands as we move up through the Golden Isles. So we know that we have the storm surge warning, and what we're looking at, and I'm going to come to some of those values, could lead to standing water in not just low-lying areas and affecting roadways and stuff like that, but also possibly affecting your your property. I don't have the map that shows. I don't have this inside my system, so I've taken this from the Know Your Zone maps, but all of the colors here, and it makes it real easy. All you have to do is go inside right here where it says address. This is where you put in your address, and then you go down and you click the map, and it's going to take you to your spot, and then it will show you the zone. If there's an evacuation, you'll also have the evacuation orders that will be listed off to the west. Some of them look like they're incomplete, but it might have a link to it that you can click on, and then it will go to the county where that has been issued, like in Nassau County, where it's not mandatory. They're just saying, hey, you might want to move to higher ground, or at least get away from what is going to be the surge. So let's talk about that effect here, and that is going to be along Brunswick southward here from those Golden Isles and in through the marshes, about 2 to 4, and you'll see that the envelopes kind of overlap, that 1 to 3 and the 3 to 6. So what they're showing here kind of fits into an envelope that would be closer to about 6 feet. Even along our beaches, it shows 3 to 5, but the window is 3 to 6, and that would be some of the max levels. And a lot of the questions are coming in out of Clay County, even western Duval, and folks that are along the river. This isn't my favorite because it doesn't complete all the way. It's got these little spots where it's broken, but once you get to Palatka, you get around that first bend, you get past the railroad bridge here, and you start all these little twists and turns as we make our way through Putnam and into southern Putnam County. You've got these other little feeders that come through. So these create, because the current's going different directions at different times here, we'll have that surge coming from the south, while meanwhile things are trying to come from the south to the north. So that creates what will be a pressure head, or at least a stagnant area where you could see water rising at both at Lake George and the tributaries that feed to the north of that, Crescent Lake, tributaries that feed all the way up the river here, all the way back over toward, was it Dunn's Creek? And then with the hard onshore flow, areas that are along the western banks, not only of Lake George, along the river, along Crescent, and continuing along the river, so Putnam and into Clay County, you could see water moving in just because of that surge, that big push of the wind moving everything from the channel possibly into your yards. So that takes care of the surge question. Know your zone, know where you are, and keep an eye on those levels. And the tides, the high tides, are going to be dangerous here, and that's what will allow you to get to a spot to protect you and your property.
Richard, do we have time for another question? Yeah. Okay. Viewers were also asking, how bad can we expect the wind gusts to be in our area?
That's another question that I had. Look at that. We're already set for it. So we'll go with the GFS. And the reason I took the GFS, this has been one of the strongest of all of them. It's always been a little bit more to the north, so it had a greater impact. So I'm glad to bring you a little bit of good news here, as it looks like where we still have some hurricane warnings that are in effect, we may see those dropped off to tropical storm warnings. It's still going to be a beast here as it comes through, but where we were showing the 60, 70 mile an hour wind gust, even here as it begins to move offshore throughout the afternoon there on Thursday, that wraparound wind is going to be really gusty. We're not done as it moves offshore, but what we're seeing, instead of the 70, 73 mile an hour winds that we're showing there for areas around St. Mary's, Brunswick, and Mayport, we're seeing 50, and then they start to drop off. We're still into tropical storm force winds here with some of these coastal zones, but that too will continue to erode as we make our way overnight, and it's still going to be breezy here on Friday. I mean, we're talking about wind gusts that are still going to top 25, 30 miles an hour at times. The peak wind gust with the latest change, that little shift here to the south, has really taken some of the hurricane sting out of it with our gust, and leaving most of us with what will be very strong sustained winds, 20, 30 miles an hour, with gusts that could be 39 to in excess of 50 miles an hour. But even like I was showing you there, the models are backing off on some of what could be the really damaging numbers. A little bit of good news here. We're going to continue the forecast as far as Hurricane Helene, a major hurricane. I'm going to show you why it's likely to weaken as it's coming through. And one of the things that we didn't talk about will be the rainfall. So we'll cover some of the rainfall, not only what's coming in by right now, but what we're expecting, and we'll have that coming up.
Local news is most important to really understand what's happening in your community so you know how best to support it.
We're delivering not just at the 5 o'clock news, but throughout the day. We've got a really robust web team, everybody putting together digital content. Lauren's one of our insiders.
Cameras from all over the Jacksonville area, right? Live cams. I think the favorite part was just really seeing the consideration for the families, seeing the collaboration between the team, working with each other to support each other to make it the best story it could be.
Business is booming in the River City. What's driving the money here? And how can that growth impact your pockets? This week in Jacksonville Business Edition, streaming on News4Jax Plus.
Welcome to the Jennifer Hudson Show.
I got a few ladies here that you have inspired. Let me show you how we do it. It feels so good to just be in the presence of this Joyce.
Weekdays at 8 on CW17. Become a local VIP with News4Jax Insider, behind-the-scenes access, live Q&As with anchors, exclusive weather tools, first dibs on local discounts and events. Sign up and sign in to News4Jax Insider, Channel 4, the local station. Exact Track 4D, tracking and dissecting storms down to your street.
Mike, Harvey. Boom. Good to have you back where you belong.
Hey, am I Spock or Kirk? Uhura walks right into it. Yeah, baby, Butch and Sundance are back.
You got to give the people what they want.
Suits, weeknights at 10 on CW17.
If the News4Jax I-Team is able to solve a problem for one person, then we're actually able to solve a problem for a lot of people.
We serve as a watchdog, and we are here to get accountability.
It seems like they're waiting months, if not years, before they hear something.
We want to empower you with information to keep your family safe. The issues in the community affect us too.
Please keep telling people's stories.
We work for this community, and we take pride in our jobs.
No one should feel like they're being taken advantage of or that they're being ignored.
The Weather Authority, tracking Milton.
The truth is, HBCU Go football does it big.
Go! Zone touchdown!
Big time catches.
Wow!
Big hits.
That's how we're doing, son! Go get some!
And big moments.
On his way! Touchdown!
Coming this fall, go big or go home.
That's what I tell y'all.
HBCU Go Football, Saturdays this fall, streaming on News4Jax Plus.
Hey, if we can't lie to each other, who can we lie to?
To family. So, Charlie, how did you sleep last night? With a woman, Alan.
Weeknights at 5 and 5.
Comcast opened more than 261,000 Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots across Florida so you can stay connected during Hurricane Milton. These hotspots, they're free to use even if you aren't an Xfinity customer. When a hotspot is within range, select the Xfinity Wi-Fi network on your device's list of available networks. Xfinity Internet customers, they can sign in with their account credentials. Customers can also use the Xfinity Wi-Fi Hotspots app to connect. Now, non-Xfinity Internet subscribers, you need to look for the Get Connected section and then agree to the terms and conditions to be connected. Non-customers will need to renew the complimentary sessions every 2 hours while the hotspots are open.
The roads are busy as people continue to evacuate from the Gulf Coast and out of Florida. Here's video from earlier today along Alligator Alley in Collier County. You can see traffic heading east on the right, very backed up. Hardly anything you're seeing on the west, which is good. Despite thousands of drivers hitting the road to evacuate, there's not a fuel shortage in Northeast Florida. However, across Florida, there are about 1,300 gas stations that don't have fuel right now. Most of those stations along the Gulf Coast. Here's a live look at the Gate gas station. This is in Jacksonville Beach. Not busy at all right now. You just see one vehicle there. We saw gas stations earlier today jam-packed with people fueling up. And now a look at the crowds when we visited a few gas stations across Jacksonville earlier this evening. We spoke with some drivers who took the time to fill out fuel outages in your area.
A reminder, Florida's price gouging hotline has been activated in preparation of the storm. The state price gouging law applies only to items and services that are essential to any storm preps or recovery. If you suspect any type of price gouging, you report it to the Attorney General's office. You do that by visiting myfloridalegal.com or by calling the number on your screen, 1-866-9-NO-SCAM. That's 1-866-966-7226.
Be sure to turn on News4JAX when you wake up tomorrow morning. We will have several guests join us for the morning show to talk about Hurricane Milton and how you can still prepare. At 7:15, St. Johns County Sheriff Rob Hardwick will talk to us about the mandatory evacuation orders for some parts of that county. At 7:40, Mike McCormick from the Poison Information Center will join us to talk about carbon monoxide poisoning, food in your freezer going bad, and other toxic risks during and after a hurricane. 8:15 a.m., Joy Andrews, the St. Johns County Administrator, will talk more about those mandatory evacuation orders and what residents should know. And at 8:40 a.m., we are sharing how you can protect your car in a hurricane. We'll break down where to park and how to know your car is safe to drive once the weather is clear. Our morning show team will also bring you live updates on preparations and where Milton is as we prepare for landfall tomorrow night.
Ahead at 10:30, two back-to-back hurricanes in Florida. That's putting a spotlight on the state's insurance crisis.
What you need to know about your insurance policy before Milton arrives.
Plus, as Florida braces for another hurricane, FEMA fights misinformation while political tensions rise. Why lawmakers from both parties are accusing each other of playing politics with the storm. That's ahead.
First, though, as we head to break, let's take another look at Hurricane Milton's proposed track there. The powerful storm expected to make landfall overnight tomorrow, evening into early Thursday morning. Richard is back in 3 minutes with the latest on the hurricane when the 10 o'clock news continues.
You know it's a special relationship when you start your day with someone.
Get it, Jen. Get it. Get it, girl.
We love celebrating the positive in every community. On its way back to Mayport.
This is pretty incredible. We've got some talent in here, right, buddy?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, helping you get the kids to school on time. Tracking pop-up showers impacting your day.
We help get your day started right.
The Morning Show on Channel 4 and News4JAX Plus makes mornings happen.
Welcome to the Jennifer Hudson Show.
I got a few ladies here that you have inspired. Let me show you how we do it. It feels so good to just be in the presence of his joy.
Weekdays at 8 on CW17. Hey, if we can't lie to each other, who can we lie to?
The family. So, Charlie, how did you sleep last night? With a woman, Alan.
Weeknights at 5 and 5:30 on CW17.
The Weather Authority alerts faster than ever with Exact Track 4D. The News4JAX Help Center is the place to find the information you need. Whether you have a question about News4JAX, like how to submit a news tip or how to become a fan of the day, or if you have a question about local resources, like who to contact if your trash wasn't picked up, just go to help.news4jax.com and search your topic or issue. You can also go to news4jax.com and click in the corner for help. If you've got questions, we've got you covered at the News4JAX Help Center. Exact Track 4D, tracking and dissecting storms down to your street.
Welcome to the Jennifer Hudson Show.
I got a few ladies here that you have inspired. Let me show you how we do it. It feels so good to just be in the presence of his joy.
Weekdays at 11 on Channel 4. See more of Jacksonville like never before without leaving your couch. Real-time views of local communities that matter to you. Zoom in on events from the Gate River Run to the biggest shows in town. Or experience sunrise and sunset in a brand new way. Explore every day on the app or news4jax.com/skycam. Stay connected and discover the world around you from above. Skycam Network. Choose your view.
What are you doing this weekend? There are so many fun ththings going on, and we break it down for you each week in the Insider's River City Guide. From food and festivals to music markets and more, we've got you covered. Just sign up to be a News4JAX Insider, and we'll send you the guide each week so that you are in the know. See you out there.
Business is booming in the River City. What's driving the money here? And how can that growth impact your pockets? This week in Jacksonville Business Edition, streaming on News4Jax Plus.
Go to News4.
Tracking Hurricane Milton, we're monitoring this powerful storm as it approaches Florida. The hurricane has already brought heavy flooding to Mexico. You see roads underwater there. And Florida will feel the impact of Hurricane Milton starting tomorrow around midnight until Thursday about noon. So that means you've got about 24 hours to finish preparing before we're going to see that really heavy rain and feel the strong winds.
And a reminder, there's a ticker at the bottom of your screen going across with information, the latest preparations, school closures, shelter information. You can also go to news4jax.com/hurricane.
All right, let's get you right to Chief Meteorologist Richard Nunn with the latest on where Hurricane Milton is now.
Oh, there I go. I'm coming on by. Heading over to the wall. I was over there at the desk wanting to hang out with the cool people, but instead they're separating us. All right, let me first start with what is coming in as we speak. Folks, we've got Milton on the mind, and now we've got these downpours, and they've been pretty persistent along some of the coastal zones. We put this into play. It only goes back about 45 minutes, but you can see where we're setting up that training event. So it's round after round after round as we'll be watching some of those big downpours as they're coming through. Just where are they heading? Let's zoom in, and I'll put a couple of tracks. We'll start first in and around Ribault Manor over toward Biltmore, Camden, Heart Haven here as you'll have one cell coming through. There's so much clutter, by the way, that I've had to swap this out to our composite view to have a little bit cleaner just so we can see what we're tracking. And we'll take that out to around the wind speed, roughly 20 miles an hour. Begley Heights, Cary, Spalding coming through, and Plummer coming up in about a 26-minute window. But some heavy rain here over top of Nassauville and back to areas of Fernandina Beach. Nassauville is actually where one of the questions came through for, hey, should I leave? We've got the voluntary, I guess it was, they were just telling people you should probably go to higher ground. You can see where the surge in the color purple continues to the south, and the reason we dropped here is what is over Cooper Hill Estates. That has started to since wind down, but we had a little shower activity. Much broader to the south, this is where the surge will be coming through first along the Gulf Coast, which could be up to 10 to 15 feet. And then our rainfall that we've seen here through the day, trace amounts around parts of Flagler, which is great news for them. They've had a lot of rain over the last several days, with the amounts varying anywhere between a trace up to, or a tenth of an inch roughly, to about a third to a quarter and 2/3 of an inch. The big questions that are coming through has to do with storm surge. We covered this. This has a little bit more detail, but I was just mentioning the Tampa, St. Pete, and Fort Myers area, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and then back to 5 to 10 here, and that could be changing. And I'll leave you with this, and this is the scenario for what becomes a major hurricane. Somebody that sent me an email said, hey, is a surge like a tsunami or just a big wave? And it's not. It's actually the lifting of the surface of the water over areas where it typically doesn't set. So when we're talking about that 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, we're talking about what would basically be from our mean tide levels on top of that, and with the wind pushing it in, this is where it will start to stand over what is normally dry ground and will be that 2, 3, 4, 5 feet, possibly here along areas of the river. That's the explanation for our surge. We tracked a couple of the showers and storms, and coming up we're going to talk about the rainfall, and we might have the latest from the National Hurricane Center on Hurricane Milton coming up.
All right, thank you, Richard. So it may not just be speed, but size that makes Hurricane Milton so catastrophically dangerous. Milton likely to get bigger before making landfall overnight tomorrow along Florida's Gulf Coast. Reporter Lee Waldman is in Tampa, where most residents appear to be listening to those dire warnings being given by officials.
Massive piles of debris are clogging the streets here, not only in Tampa, but all along the western coast of Florida, left over from Hurricane Helene. There was a massive exodus of people fleeing to safer grounds ahead of what's expected to be one of the most dangerous hurricanes to hit Florida in a century. Good God. Storm chasers from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration on a, quote, bumpy ride flying inside Hurricane Milton as it tracks toward Florida. The storm is expected to double in size before slamming into the Sunshine State late Wednesday, just 2 weeks since Hurricane Helene hit.
Well, my mom just lost everything in the Helene storm. Don't want to do it again or, potentially have anything bad happen.
The back-to-back storms left little time to clean up. Piles of debris still not picked up from Helene could be tossed around by Milton's winds and water, causing new hazards.
There's still a lot of debris out there.
so it is a concern, and we're running out of time with that, which is another reason why the best thing that we can advise for people at this time is those are the areas that are required to evacuate, so please do so.
Officials are pleading for people to leave,
Evacuate the area.
warning that they risk being killed if they stay.
This is not survivable. I just want to tell you, if you think you're going to be able to stay out there and protect your property, it's not going to happen.
The storm's eye and eye wall could come ashore in the Tampa area and unleash record storm surge, potentially becoming the worst storm to hit the city in over 100 years.
If you're going to get out now.
NOAA officials warning that the destruction from Hurricane Milton is already roughly projected to cost, quote, multiple tens of billions of dollars. Tonight, 20% of gas stations across the state are out of fuel. The governor bringing in tankers to refuel and telling people this is dangerous not only for the coast, but across the entire state of Florida. In Tampa, Florida, I'm Lee Waldman reporting.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, working to reassure the public that it's ready to respond to Milton and is pushing back against misinformation. Meanwhile, lawmakers are accusing each other of playing politics with the storm. Reporter Julia Benbrook shows us more.
As Florida recovers from Hurricane Helene and braces for Hurricane Milton, the FEMA administrator is warning against misinformation. False rumors about funding have plagued the agency in recent days. Several of those statements coming from former President Donald Trump, who incorrectly claimed that FEMA funds have been used for housing illegal migrants.
We really have just got to stop this rhetoric, because what it's doing is it's putting fear in the people that we're not going to be there to help them. And I worry that they won't register for assistance with us.
Meanwhile, politicians on both sides of the aisle are pointing fingers when it comes to communication. A White House official says Vice President Kamala Harris reached out to Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis multiple times since Hurricane Helene made landfall in his state, but he has not taken her calls.
Playing political games at this moment in these crisis situations, these are the height of emergency situations, is just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish, and it is about political gamesmanship.
The Florida governor says that Harris has, quote, no role in the hurricane response and suggested she is inserting herself due to her political campaign.
I've had storms under both President Trump and President Biden, and I've worked well with both of them. She's the first one who's trying to politicize the storm.
The White House says DeSantis did connect with President Joe Biden for a phone call late Monday, and he's told reporters he's thankful to the president for approving everything his state has needed so far. But when Biden was in Florida last week to survey the damage on the ground, DeSantis declined to join him, instead holding his own press conference in another city. Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Two major hurricanes in the same region in a short time span have put a spotlight on the insurance industry. Experts say the most crucial time for homeowners to review their coverage is before disaster strikes. Karen Kaifa is in Washington with what homeowners need to know.
More frequent, more intense natural disasters are prompting changes in the insurance industry. And with insurance companies keeping up with the times, consumer experts say that homeowners should too. Parts of the southeastern United States haven't recovered from Hurricane Helene, and now here comes Milton.
This could be the worst storm to hit Florida in over a century.
It's a reminder to regularly review home, renters, and auto insurance policies and note what may have changed.
Not just mold, not just water, but deductibles. There's even hail limits. So at least give yourself a fighting chance by knowing where those gaps are.
The insurance industry has been hit in recent years by more frequent disasters and inflation. That's led to a jump in homeowners insurance rates, 11.3% last year, according to S&P Global. And Amy Bach, executive director of United Policyholders, says insurance companies are using more defined technology to assess risk.
Aerial images, data mining, predictive models. And all that technology means that they have been fine-tuning the wording in their policies.
Bach says when disaster does strike, document as much damage as is safe to do so and keep a daily journal of recovery steps.
Who you talk to, what their phone number is, what their email is, just notes to kind of keep yourself on track.
Home buyers can also keep natural disasters in mind before signing the dotted line. A new tool from the home shopping website Zillow shows how vulnerable properties for sale might be to extreme climate events with data on flooding, wildfires, wind, heat, and air quality. The industry's Insurance Information Institute also notes that most standard homeowners policies will include some living expenses away from home in the event a property is damaged by a natural disaster. It's another important reason to review a policy as part of preparedness. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
And our team will continue to bring you the very latest on Milton as it continues moving toward us.
A reminder, if you haven't done so, now is a great time to download our weather apps. Just search WJXT in your device's app store. Both of our weather apps are free. And be sure to turn on push alerts so you never miss an update from our team. Ahead, Hurricane Milton putting a pause on high school football for this week.
Coming up next in sports, though, News4Jax sports anchor Justin Barney has schedule updates for the Super 10 teams.
The morning show makes mornings happen.
Breaking news alerts until the danger has passed.
Breaking news alert, it's near the San Souci neighborhood.
Breaking news that we have been following.
Giving families information that makes a real difference in their lives. It's good to be prepared.
It is. I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
We're helping families make ends meet.
Ways to cut your monthly electric bill.
Clever ways to stop spending and start saving.
Getting you out the door on time. Tracking storms heading our way.
The morning show on Channel 4 and News4Jax Plus.
Local news is most important. I'm raising a family here. I'd like to stay up to date on everything.
I'm so glad you were able to come in. This is our meeting for the evening. This is our News4Jax insider, Lauren, throwing out story ideas.
I was led through an incredible experience. I did feel a lot of transparency and authenticity. I had no distrust when it came, so I only am more impressed now.
Exact Track 4D, tracking and dissecting storms down to your street.
The social changes either were cataloged by 4 or adopted by Channel 4.
Air pollution.
The paper mill smell was horrific.
Channel 4 decided to do something about it.
Tolls on our bridges.
If you really want to know, I don't think you ought to pay any tolls.
Channel 4 investigated and determined they were not a cost-effective means.
For 75 years, Channel 4 has helped change the face of Jacksonville.
Tough odor laws were passed. The tolls finally came down.
And we've only just begun.
You know what's not so fun? Finding out about an event after it happens. Stay in the loop with our News4Jax Insiders newsletter. Our exclusive newsletter hits your inbox every week with food tips, important information you need to know about parking, all kinds of good stuff. Become an insider today.
On River City Live, we're celebrating all things local.
Food.
I'm going to go ahead and dig in.
Ciao, y'all.
Fashion.
Grab my credit cards because we're going shopping.
Local entertainment.
It's going to be a wild show, and I'm not going to wear anything flammable.
And events.
This is what our locals are made of.
Everything that makes Jacksonville unique.
I think we need to see what else we can get into.
So stay connected
with Jacksonville's #1 lifestyle show, River City Live.
The Weather Authority tracking Milton.
Business is booming in the River City. What's driving the money here? And how can that growth impact your pockets? This week in Jacksonville Business Edition.
Exact Track 4D detects dangerous weather days ahead of time, so you can make the right plans for your family.
And take a look up at the video here. I want to show you this to you again. A very bumpy ride for hurricane hunters flying into Milton today. They are flying in an aircraft nicknamed Miss Piggy to collect critical data on the storm from the sky. But you can just see how rough a ride that is. Look at that.
Wow. So we talked about this the last time we showed one of the pieces of video, and we had them, and it kind of was almost like a cockpit view where you could see them as they were all toward the front.
And out the window there, yeah. Look at that.
Look at the rain just whipping by that as they get into. But look at everything around where they're sitting. I mean, it's a metal cage behind the guy that's on the left. Behind the guy that's on the right, next to him is another metal box with sharp corners. When I was telling you that I've talked to some of the folks that when they get back, it's like, they're happy to get on the ground, and then they start, counting bumps and bruises because of some of the things that are in there. And by the way, those seats don't recline. You don't get peanuts, and there's no hot towels.
You can't
Are there
buy a
barf
first-class
bags?
ticket, huh?
Yes, there are.
They're barf bags. Okay.
Yes, there are quite a few of those. When they're not being used, they turn into a puppet. But before and after, you don't want to.
Wow.
You don't want to put your hand in after. All right, on over to the board. Let's get you outside and show you what's going on. One of the other things that I had email-wise was, hey, we're out of the cone now. When are we going to stop the charade? Folks, this isn't an invisible fence. This is not going to stop the wind from coming around. It's not going to stop the rain from coming in. Yes, it's nice to say that with these shifts, we're pulling that cone out of our forecast circle, but it's not going to stop the onshore surge of the wind and what could be the tropical impact now as this is moving away. We got the 11 o'clock update in. Here we go. 24.3, making a pretty good jump to the north, and we're looking for that number here because of that northeasterly flow, and it's also picked up some forward speed, which is good. Our timeline, really not that much different. So here we are. The path still showing what's basically going to come in somewhere around Sarasota into the Bradenton area, 2 o'clock in the morning, 125-mile-an-hour wind, and then weakening to a Category 1. And that's been another popular question is, hey, what is going to cause this from going from a Category 5 to a 3? And the other part is when people are seeing the 3, and we're talking about the storm getting bigger, it's the expansion of the storm as the winds continue to go well outside of what will be the cone and impacting everybody from southeast Georgia here across northeast Florida with the surge that is still, even with the update here, the colors remain the same, and so do the numbers 2 to 4, up to 3 to 5, but the full envelope is what would be 3 to 5 feet, 3 to 6 feet rather, as we look along our coastal zones. All right, so we left off and we were talking about the rainfall and what this purple swath that had one point gone well up and inside of Jacksonville has started to back off here and starting to slip to the south, and it still brings in what will potentially be a little bit better news. So we've never really had a lot of rain into southeast Georgia, and that actually backs off a little bit more, taking you down to about a third. I'm still more comfortable with what would be something along the lines of about 1 to 2 inches until we get to our coastal zones, and here's where we could see 2 to 3 or 1 to 3 inches. And as I continue into clickety-click, our yellow, did my little meter turn off here? I think it was because I moved the map. There we go, 2 to 4 or 2.4 inches. And you can see that this area here is kind of in our 2 to 4 range. Then we get into the red, and this would be in our 4 to 6 inch range, and then into the purple. So we're seeing a lot of the single digits, but this is still what's going to be 6 to 8 inches in some of the heavier amounts. Southern St. John's, Putnam, and even into Flagler County. Here's where you're going to hover just in around what could be 10 inches to as much as a foot of rain coming through inside of that really tight window, less than a 24-hour swath, as we'll see that impact here through those areas. These are the spots, especially to the south in Flagler, that's had substantial amounts of rain. We'll be watching those for what could potentially be some flooding. Other areas that we're watching, and in that last map I showed you, it had that yellow that bulged out here around Middleburg. That incorporates Black Creek because it is possible you could see 3 to 5 through there, parts of the Santa Fe River, and then through southeast Georgia, anywhere between the Altamaha and over toward the Satilla. One of the things that we have seen, and I'm a glutton for punishment here, so I'll see if I can get this to work. I'll click it and let it sit here for a second, is where we're starting to see these moderate levels. And if I can get the numbers to come up, what's pretty amazing is that at 2 feet, we're into the moderate level here. As we get to 3 feet, we get to the major levels, and this continues to build. This is part of the Ocklawaha and over toward the Rodman Dam. But even, let me see if I can get any of these to work, these minor levels are still going to move in what could become moderate along the southern portion of the St. Johns as we continue southward here through areas of Putnam County. The other question is what's going to help to weaken the storm as it moves in, and it's the cold front acting as a buffer and allowing some of that drier air to the north to be entrained, and that's what's going to start to pull away some of the strength. So what are we looking for Wednesday? Windy conditions, showers are coming through, the wind, the surge, and the rain, a big part of our forecast from overnight Wednesday through at least the midday hours here on Thursday. And even though we're clearing on Friday, it is still going to be a very breezy day. Rainfall over at the airport, as we were tracking that a little while ago. Here's what you expect overnight tonight. Breeze is going to pick up throughout the day Wednesday. We'll wake up with temperatures. Most of us are in the 70s. Rainfall will be increasing as we get to late in the afternoon, evening, with the brunt of it coming through for Thursday, through Thursday afternoon, and then tapering off as we look to Thursday night with improvements over the weekend, even those cooler temperatures.
Richard, thanks. Many high school football games are postponed until next week because of the approaching hurricane.
To update you on the latest scheduling and to see which teams Justin Barney thinks are the best in our area, here's tonight's Super 10.
We are in a Super 10 week and a lot of moving parts this week due to Hurricane Milton. So you see a lot of unanswered questions on the schedules for these teams this week, but we do have a few shakeups on our high school football Super 10, and let's jump right into it. Creekside. Yep, they are back in the Super 10. They were in our preseason Super 10 and fell out after week 1 loss. But the Knights have been on fire lately. They've kind of found that offense that we knew they were capable of, that we expected in week 1. They have beaten Bartram Trail, Winter Park, and then Fleming Island last week, 48-45. That 0-3 start where they struggled a little bit on offense and couldn't figure things out is a thing of the past. The Knights are rolling. Coach Sean McIntyre and company have got it going on, so the Knights back in our rankings. Number 9, Beachside. I really wanted to be able to move them up after last week's win over Tocoy Creek. A 29-26 blocked field goal decided the game in our Varsity 4 game of the week. Beachside stays in at number 9. They are scheduled to play Fleming Island at some point. That game will go off, but we do not know exactly when. Moving up to 8 and 7, Ponte Vedra. They had a big win over Leesburg last week. Their game against Middleburg, unbeaten Middleburg, is been moved to Monday night, so the Sharks will get that one in, but it's not going to be until next week. That'll be a good game in offensive and defense collision right there. Oakleaf, they're supposed to play First Coast. They were off last week. That's a big game for the Knights if they can continue to keep on rolling. They have 2 losses this year, Bowles and then Hawthorne. Not bad losses at all, but the Knights look like the best team in Clay County and certainly one of the best teams in our area, running behind Deuce Foy and head coach Christopher Foy. Moving up, 6 and 5, Mandarin actually squeezed in a game this week. They played First Coast on Monday night in a game that was actually the Hurricane Helene makeup game, 27-6 over the Buccaneers. And it's good to see the Mandarin Mustangs. They've had a lot of injury concerns, a lot of issues injury-wise. They've got Jamie French back. Drake Stubbs, our reigning Defensive Player of the Year, a pick 6 in that game against the Bucs on Monday night. They are rolling along. Bowles, game against Jackson this week. They're coming off a win last week over Lake City, Columbia. They've been at number 5 for a little bit of time. That game against Jackson is a district game. 4-3-2-1. You see, not a lot of changes at all. St. Augustine has a game against Clay, district game. That will be made up at some point. Bradford coming off a big win last week over Palatka. They've got a game against Newberry. That game will be played. And these, to me, have been the best 4 teams in the area this year. Nice coming off that overtime win over Gainesville Buchholz last week. They've got a county clash against Bartram Trail coming up on Monday. Now that we know, that is always a great game. That game was one-sided Bartram Trail, then back to Nice. They didn't play for a little bit of time. But again, St. John's County clashes mean so much. That's such a great rivalry game, a chance for Bartram Trail to kind of get back on the winning track. Rains coming off a 52-12 domination over Ribault in the Northwest Classic. Expected that one to go that way. They had a game scheduled on Friday against Madison County, going out to Boot Hill. That one is now off the books, still waiting on makeup time for that one. Now is a good time to remind you, if we have football in week 8, our game of the Varsity 4 game of the week will be a good one from Nassau County. Fernandina Beach and Yulee scheduled to go head-to-head. If that game happens, you can stream that on Friday night at 7 p.m., our Varsity 4 game of the week between the Yulee Hornets and the Fernandina Beach Pirates. That's streaming at 7 p.m. on Friday night if games wind up happening. For all the latest in high school football postponements, cancellations, scheduling updates, you can find that over on the sports page at news4jax.com. Also got a new Varsity 4 podcast today where Sponge Franklin and I drafted our top coaches and top players if we were starting a program. So listen to that wherever you get your favorite podcasts. That'll do it for sports.
All right, and as we head to break, we are still tracking Hurricane Milton. This storm expected to make landfall overnight tomorrow evening into early Thursday morning. You can get updates on Milton and how it will impact your neighborhood with our free Hurricane Tracker app. We will be right back.
Pro wrestling fans, the stars are on, going ringside.
I'm honored to be here, so thanks for having us.
Can I get a woo? Woo! The top guy on the planet, Swerve Strickland.
Who's out Swerve's house? Right here.
The icon himself, Jerry the King Lawler.
It's good to think that, and it's good to hear you say that.
The star herself, AEW Women's Champion, Timeless, Toni Storm.
Well, it's the hot new thing, shaking up the whole wrestling world.
We're going to have a lot more megastars all year long.
Young Sheldon, weeknights on CW17.
Breaking news knows no bounds. Marine 4 gets you closer to stories that matter most, from severe storms on local shores to emergencies along the St. Johns. Marine 4 is there. Channel 4, the local station. The Weather Authority alerts faster than ever with Exact Track 4D.
The social changes either were cataloged by 4 or accepted by Channel 4.
Air pollution.
The paper mill smell was horrific.
Channel 4 decided to do something about it.
Tolls on our bridges.
If you really want to know, I don't think you ought to pay any tolls.
Channel 4 investigated and determined they were not a cost-effective means.
For 75 years, Channel 4 has helped change the face of Jacksonville.
Tough odor laws were passed, the tolls finally came down.
And we've only just begun.
Welcome to the Jennifer Hudson Show.
I got a few ladies here
That you have inspired. Let me show you how we do it.
It feels so good to just be in the presence of his joy.
Weekdays at 8 on CW17.
The News4JAX app got an update. Now you can join the conversation by commenting on stories. Get the news you want with a customizable home screen. Enjoy a better video experience and easy-to-find live stream for up-to-the-date information. Download the News4JAX app today.
Mike, Harvey. Boom. Good to have you back where you belong.
Hey, am I Spock or Kirk? Uhura. Walks right into it. Yeah, baby. Butch and Sundance are back.
You got to give the people what they want. Suits, weeknights at 10 on CW17.
I watch News4JAX because I like to be informed. They give a lot of things to help us build our communities. Pleasure to meet you, Joy. I'm Makita.
Here is our newsroom. A lot of the calls from callers come in here. This is also where our crews are disseminated.
Here is our night squad.
Waiting to hear back to get confirmation.
Arlington and make it a new Avondale.
News4JAX is amazing. My favorite part was literally being in the room. We want to know what you think.
Major theme parks in Orlando have all announced closures this week because of Hurricane Milton. SeaWorld Orlando and its other Orlando parks, they'll be closed tomorrow and Thursday. The park says extra precautions are in place to protect the animals. Universal Orlando, Islands of Adventure, City Walk, they'll be open tomorrow until 2 p.m. The parks will be closed Thursday. Disney World closing its parks in phases tomorrow. Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom will close at 1 p.m. Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Disney Springs will close at 2 p.m. The parks will stay closed Thursday. Each park says it anticipates normal operations by Friday, but they're going to make an official decision later this week. All right, stay with us. There is much more to come.
Yeah, Richard's back on the other side of a short commercial break with the 11 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. That's ahead on News4JAX at 11.
We work for this community and we take pride in our jobs.
It is our mission to help local communities thrive.
When people contact the News4JAX I team about being ripped off or being bullied, I take it personal.
Stark Miter here with Channel 4 News.
Anything that I can do to help give them a voice. Try to prevent us from talking to residents.
We serve as a watchdog, and we are here to get accountability.
I'm glad that you're shining a light on this.
We can all make Jacksonville a better place to live.
Go to news4jax.com/insider and become a VIP today.
The News4JAX app got an update. Now you can join the conversation by commenting on stories. Get the news you want with a customizable home screen. Enjoy a better video experience and easy-to-find live stream for up-to-the-date information. Download the News4JAX app today.
Two best friends.
I'm not your best friend, Dave.
Looking for great comedy?
It's true. I am the master.
You're in the right neighborhood.
Oh, well. Let the fake friendliness continue.
Your Neighborhood, weeknights on CW17.
On River City Live, we're celebrating all things local.
Food, fashion, local entertainment, and events.
Everything that makes Jacksonville unique. So stay connected
with Jacksonville's #1 lifestyle show, River City Live.
The News4JAX Help Center is the place to find the information you need. Whether you have a question about News4JAX, like how to submit a news tip or how to become a fan of the day, Or if you have a question about local resources, like who to contact if your trash wasn't picked up, just go to help.news4jax.com and search your topic or issue. You can also go to news4jax.com and click in the corner for help. If you've got questions, we've got you covered at the News4Jax Help Center.
You could win $5,000 and so much more. Watch Bob Hart's Abishola and look for the flavor of the day. Text it to 55225 or visit bobharts.com.
That is wonderful.
Bob Hart's Abishola.
Weekdays on CW17.
What are you doing up there? Staying alive.
Go get your freak out. That's spooky.
Young Sheldon, weeknights on CW17.
The Weather Authority alerts faster than ever with Exact Track 4D. Live from the local station, News4Jax starts now.
Right now at 11, you're looking at the latest track for Hurricane Milton. Just receiving the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center within the past 15 minutes. Milton is expected to be the most dangerous storm the Tampa Bay area has seen in more than a century.
Millions of people spent the day either wrapping up their preparations or hitting the roads to evacuate. We want to get straight to the Weather Authority's Chief Meteorologist, Richard Nunn, with that 11 o'clock update. Richard, how does that track look?
It looks a little bit better as far as taking some of the brunt out of our forecast. Unfortunately, it does mean that other folks here to the south are going to get hammered with what will be a major hurricane as it comes through. And looking a little less like spaghetti and more of a path is what we have here. So if I extend the view, you'll see what we're talking about as this is going to come in off the Gulf of Mexico. The consensus with models, there's always that one model, the odd model out, very tight, and that shift is actually pulled it south of the bay, ended around Bayshore Gardens, Bradenton, Sarasota, Gulf Estates, and into Venice. Port Charlotte could be an issue as well. And much like what we have here with the bay, it kind of has that southwest off to the northeast. We also have this as you get up to around Port Charlotte, as you get back into the Cape Coral area, southward through Fort Myers, and then all of our barrier isles here, whether it's up through Longboat Key, Captiva, Sanibel, out through Estero, and then southward here into Lover's Key. Those areas could see some of the highest of the, even more so than what they saw from Helene as it was updated at 5:30 and then again at 8 o'clock. But still packing 160-mile-an-hour winds. Here we are Wednesday, and there's Thursday. So the overall track, you know what? The last one that I was showing you, where it looked like the track stayed the same, they must have done a second update, because now we're seeing where the changes have come through. Here we are at 8 o'clock in the evening, Category 4. It is still expected to continue to weaken just before landfall, but folks, it's going to be a major hurricane nonetheless. If it's a weak 4 or a strong 3, I mean, we're splitting hairs there. Category 1, and let's see, I think I've got it to where the cities will start popping up. So we're anywhere from, and now we're just a little bit more south of Winter Haven, Kissimmee, St. Cloud's a little south of that as well, but we're over top of areas around Fort Meade, Dundee, Haines City here, as that will be pushing through. Merritt Island, Rockledge, here's Palm Bay, and that's been showing up quite a bit. Cocoa Beach would be here just to the north, and the Beak there would be parts of the Cape. So we're still exiting through areas that would be into Brevard County with the impact. And like I was saying, don't focus on just the cone, because as the storm weakens and it becomes that 3, 2, and Category 1, it will be expanding well beyond the lines that are showing that potential range inside of the cone, as we'll be tracking that from the morning hours on Thursday, really from around midnight here locally, all the way through around the midday hours. And we're still going to be breezy. Even as it moves offshore, we'll start to see some of the wind cut off, but it's still going to be breezy here along our beaches. We'll bring that forecast back at home. What can we expect out of what will be a major hurricane as it makes landfall to the south and west of us? I'll have that coming up.
All right, Richard, we're going to check in now with News4Jax reporter Alicia Hatcher joining us live from our mobile newsroom. Alicia, you visited downtown St. Augustine today, which is part of a mandatory evacuation order in St. Johns County.
Joy, it was completely empty when we left there this evening. There were no cars on the road. We just got on the highway not too long ago. I'm going to turn the camera so you can see what we're seeing. It is raining just a little bit here on the highway. There's still a lot of cars on the road, normally more than usual than we normally see on a regular day, especially around 11 o'clock. So we're seeing more cars on the road. More people are still leaving the area. I was speaking with business owners that are in the area. Some of them live in like the St. Augustine beach area, and they were saying that they were evacuating, and so they were boarding up their businesses early so they can go home and prepare to evacuate and leave out of the state of Florida. And they're just hoping that the damage doesn't affect their business this year. Hurricane Milton is expected to hit Florida within the next few days, and people in St. Augustine are awaiting its arrival. Families like the Vassars came to St. Augustine from Tampa to escape Milton. How difficult was it to grab gas?
About 3 gas stations we stopped at down in the Tampa area were completely out of gas, but we finally got a little bit out of there, got some gas, and now we're here.
St. Augustine resident John Wilson says he plans to wait out the storm at home.
My house is on higher ground. I'm not in a flood zone. I don't think there's any necessity for me to evacuate. I'm sure there are people like down here in the flood zones, they should evacuate.
This be your first storm you will endure, or have you been in it?
I was here for the one last week.
Okay. Well, aside from the 2 recent storms.
I've been in Palm Beach Gardens for a number of years, and I think I've been through about 3 hurricanes down there.
So the Vassar family from the Tampa Bay area, they did say that they're going to stay here till Monday. I asked them, do they have any cameras? Did they board up their home? And they said they did board up their home, and they're going to monitor those cameras at their home until the Wi-Fi goes out. But they said they feel more safe being up here in the St. Augustine area. For now, reporting live in our mobile newsroom, Alicia Hatcher, Channel 4, the local station.
Thank you, Alicia. In Jacksonville, no mandatory evacuation orders have been issued. The city, though, has 6 shelters open for people looking for a safe place to stay. News for Jackson reporter Ariel Schiller tells us the biggest concerns local officials have and how the city plans to take on this storm.
With Hurricane Milton heading towards Florida, the city of Jacksonville is ready to respond once it's safe to do so. During the city's 6 p.m. update, Mayor Donna Deegan said JEA is working hard to get more line crews and that they're at 93% of the contracted crews they had during Hurricane Helene.
It may take a while, given all of the wind and the rain that's going to be associated with the storm, to get everybody's power restored. We are talking about an event on top of an event. So we've already got some drenched areas and some infrastructure that's a problem. So I really want you to be patient if you possibly can.
Alex Booth with the National Weather Service also gave an update about the storm, noting that they anticipate the amount of rain coming from the storm to result in flooding concerns for Duval County.
The surge is going to be still a huge impact. It's driven by wind. We are still anticipating tropical storm force winds to strong tropical force winds sustained at the coast, at the oceanfront, and in the riverfront areas. That is going to drive water into the coast, into the river, resulting in surge along the beaches of 3 to 5 feet.
The city also has extra public works teams working through Wednesday to pick up yard waste from Hurricane Helene. Mayor Deegan says the city messaged people letting them know it would take 2 to 3 cycles to clear curbs.
I want you to understand we are doing the very best we can. Our crews are out there working hard. We've got extra crews picking up yard waste. They are prioritizing neighborhoods that will face the worst wind and flood threats.
In Jacksonville, Ariel Schiller, Channel 4, the local station.
Again, there are 6 shelters available for people in Jacksonville. For more information, you can visit jaxready.com/Milton.
Several counties in Northeast Florida are urging residents who live in low-lying, flood-prone areas to relocate to safer spots for Hurricane Milton. Nassau encourages residents in Zones A, Zone D, the beachfront, intercoastal, and marshfront areas to relocate. Putnam County has issued recommended evacuations for Zones F and A. Clay and Flagler counties don't have any mandatory evacuation orders right now, but those living in low-lying, flood-prone areas or mobile homes should prepare to relocate. You can use our Know Your Zone page. That's on newsforjax.com. We've made it easy for you to check out your address with an interactive map. Just go to newsforjax.com/Know Your Zone.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is keeping a close eye on this impending storm. In case you missed it, we want to show you the latest video showing hurricane hunters flying through Milton. Very bumpy ride. You can barely see the plane's propellers through that window we just showed you a moment because of the driving rain. Hurricane hunters fly above, around, and into storms to see what's going on from the inside.
Gas stations across the state are seeing long lines at pumps ahead of the storm. How the crunch time before Hurricane Milton is bringing out the best and the worst in people. That's next.
I'm excited to find out what News4JAX is behind the scenes, how they help out in the community. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to News4JAX. We're going to start here in the newsroom. You can see the editorial conversations that we have.
How do you know what stories to start out with?
Whatever the most impactful stories that we have that hits our community, that's what we like to put in our shows.
When someone asks you about today, what's the one thing you're going to tell them?
It's a local team working for the local community, connecting the people so they feel safe tonight.
Football's newest show breaks down all things NFL 5 days a week. It's football for everyone.
Weekdays on CW17.
Business is booming in the River City. What's driving the money here? And how can that growth impact your pockets? This week in Jacksonville, Business Edition, streaming on News4JAX Plus.
Local news is most important. I'm raising a family here. I'd like to stay up to date on everything.
I'm so glad you were able to come in. This is our meeting for the evening. This is our News4JAX insider, Lauren, throwing out story ideas.
I was led through an incredible experience. I did feel a lot of transparency and authenticity. I had no distrust when it came, so I only am more impressed now.
You could win $5,000 and so much more. Watch Bob Hart's Abishola and look for the flavor of the day. Text it to 55225 or visit bobharts.com.
That is wonderful.
Bob Hart's Abishola.
Weekdays on CW17.
Go to news4jax.com/insider and become a VIP today.
Mike, Harvey. Boom. Good to have you back where you belong.
Hey, am I Spock or Kirk? Uhura walks right into it.
Yeah, baby. Butch and Sundance are back.
You got to give the people what they want.
Suits, weeknights at 10 on CW17.
Breaking news knows no bounds. Marine 4 gets you closer to stories that matter most. From severe storms on local shores to emergencies along the St. Johns, Marine 4 is there. Channel 4, the local station. The Weather Authority alerts faster than ever with Exact Track 4D. Exact Track 4D, tracking and dissecting storms down to your street. When hurricanes threaten our area, every second counts. Stay safe and informed with News4JAX, the Weather Authority.
This is getting a bit stronger. This is getting a bit more real. This is getting a bit more intense.
Our team of expert meteorologists are live, bringing you the most updated forecast to keep you ahead of danger.
This is just a really dangerous situation, one we are tracking diligently.
Your safety is our commitment. The Weather Authority, always watching.
People across the state lining up at gas pumps to fill their cars ahead of Hurricane Milton.
Reporter Eric Von Aken stopped by a gas station in Sarasota that was packed with people tonight.
Tonight we are at a very popular place, a Wawa gas station, because we've been running out of gas, driving all over Southwest Florida here, trying to provide coverage. And we found this place, which is mobbed because, one, look, the lights are on, which, typically we take for granted. Two, there's food. There are very few places to eat around here, so you can see all the people in line there. At three, most importantly, there is still gas. There are very few places. We drove around at least 15, 20 miles or so, checking half a dozen or so gas stations, just trying to find a place to fuel up. We're seeing the best of humanity here, so people will actually coordinate, and they're doing something that surprises us a little bit. They're talking to each other, some getting out, some saying, okay, which fuel do you need? Do you need ethanol free? Well, pull up here, let me get you in, let me kind of guide you. And sadly, we're also seeing the worst of humanity. People are honking at each other. There's not a lot of patience. You see near misses, people in some cases yelling at each other. And I guess a lot of this is understandable because we have what potentially could be a Category 3, 4, or 5 by the time it makes landfall here in southwest Florida, coming straight at us. So we're in Sarasota County. Just north of us is Manatee County, a town called Bradenton many people have heard of. And then just north of that, St. Petersburg, St. Pete Beach, they call it, and also an area called Clearwater. All of these places along the Barrier Island have been slammed terribly hard by Hurricane Helene just 2 weeks ago, and now folks say they have to deal with this. Many of these people are riding it out. The ones who are leaving have already left, and they are headed further inland to places like Orlando because the Barrier Islands here in southwest Florida have already been evacuated. For now in Sarasota County, I'm Eric Von Anken.
The Weather Authority and Exact Track 4D, cutting-edge technology, giving you the most accurate forecast down to your street.
We had our help center phone lines open today, and in the last hour, we were talking through some of the questions that came in. One of the questions that I keep getting from people is, hey, is this track maybe moves a little south? Is there a right side or a wrong side to be on a hurricane for the potential impact?
That's a good question, and I can answer that here is yes, we're going to be on, if there's a good side of the storm, we're going to be on the good side. You have to kind of reorient yourself here because most of the time if we're tracking it from the south to the north, it's a little easier. So you have to look at which way the path is going. So we'll just take the one, for instance, and you would just draw a plus sign here. So this corner would be typically, if it's moving to the north, that would be the northeast quadrant. That is going to be the strongest side of the storm. And not only that, this is the dirty side here. And the reason is the wind would be following that counterclockwise flow. Get here when it actually sees the acceleration. And as it whips back around, all of that creating the rotation is why there's going to be a higher risk for probable tornadoes as we head to the south versus what we're seeing. And I will say with the shift to the south, that had to have even taken where we had the 2% chance between, say, Gainesville and over to parts of southern St. John's, Flagler, and Putnam. I would have to imagine that these shifts to the south, and being that we're going to have more of what will be a directional pattern, everything being out of the east and northeast, will help to lower those effects to much like what we're seeing at I-10 and northward throughout Jacksonville. We are still tracking some of the rain as it's coming through, and we've got the downpours. Haven't seen much in the way of the lightning, but we'll do a fresh track here for the folks that are in Callahan seeing some of the rain. That's a little bit fast compared to its real time. It's going about 20. So Kent, I would add a few minutes to that. St. George, about 20 minutes. Stokesville and Clarking, they're looking pretty good for what will take about another 25 minutes, 30 minutes or so. And then as we get closer over toward Nassauville and heading into Amelia and northward up through Fernandina Beach, St. Mary's is also going to see some. And I tell you what, let's grab and we'll take this area here and we'll kind of do our little fan and pull that out and through areas. So you've got Glenwood, Chester, Land's End, River Oak, here's St. Mary's at 15 minutes or 12 minutes now, just took a minute off, Shadowland and Becker, as we'll be watching areas from Pecan Park, northern Duval County, through Nassau County. If you are not familiar, there's a lot of new folks. That's the other thing I've realized here with the email coming through. This might be the first hurricane for some folks, and you might not know your zone. So if you go and just type in Know Your Zone Florida, it'll take you to a map that looks like this. You put your address up at the top, and then it will zoom you into the map and show you, are you in an evacuation zone? If it does, then it has the orders that you'd follow. But here's what we're expecting, anywhere between 2 to 4, and it says 3 to 5, but the complete envelope goes as high as 6 feet. And even along the river here, where we're still showing what's mostly the yellow color, we're still averaging what could be that, say, 3 to 5 feet. And it takes us back to what would be Irma-like with the flooding. That was at 5 feet, and we had areas that were also a little bit higher than that. The only thing I don't like about this map is that it's not complete with the color, as we are going to see some flooding here as we move into southern Putnam County, especially at the headwaters here of some of the rivers and lakes, and anywhere where the rivers are coming together. Now, taking a little bit more sting out of it, and I showed this a little while ago, is we're seeing a little less of what would be really impactful rainfall. Even what we're going to see is potentially going to flood in areas, especially as we get south. And I'll just go to some of the heavier areas, and I want you to note that where we're seeing this sort of a brighter color through parts of Flagler and even into Putnam County, here's where we're at 8 to 10. Some areas could see as much much as 12 inches of rain. Through the red is where we're at 4 to 6. The yellow here is where we would average closer to about 2 to 4. And then those lighter amounts that would take us into the area of green, and that continues into southeast Georgia. Favorable for us as the path shifts a little bit to the south, not for the folks where it's shifting towards. 71 degrees. That chance for showers and storms coming through overnight tonight, we're still tracking them there through Nassau County. Our widespread stuff will start to pick up, moving in from the southwest and spreading across our area as we make our way through Wednesday. Last minute trips, picking up the stuff around your house, all of that kind of stuff can be done early. It's late in the evening Wednesday. As a matter of fact, we really don't start to see tropical storm force wind impacts until after 8 o'clock, and then it ramps up just like we saw with Helene overnight. We'll be tracking the storm through the early morning and afternoon hours as it exits on Thursday, and waiting for the all clear so that we can let you guys get back to your normal everyday Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It might be a little bit of cleaning up under what will be pleasant conditions. More than news at 11 after the break.
I watch News4JAX because I like to be informed. They give a lot of things to help us build our communities. Pleasure to meet you, Joy. I'm Makita.
Here is our newsroom. A lot of the calls from callers come in here. This is also where our crews are disseminated.
Here is our night squad.
Waiting to hear back to get confirmation.
Arlington and make it the new Avondale.
News4JAX is amazing. My favorite part was literally being in the room. We want to know what you think about, what you care about, what worries you, what makes you feel safe.
You know it's a special relationship when you start your day with someone.
Get it, Jen. Get it. Get it, girl.
We love celebrating the positive in every community.
On its way back to Mayport.
This is pretty incredible.
We've got some talent in here, right, buddy?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, helping you get the kids to school on time. Tracking pop-up showers impacting your day.
We help get your day started right.
The Morning Show on Channel 4 and News4JAX Plus makes mornings happen.
Welcome to the Jennifer Hudson Show.
I got a few ladies here that you have inspired. Let me show you how we do it.
It feels so good to just be in the presence of this Joyce.
Weekdays at 11 on Channel 4.
Two best friends.
I'm not your best friend, Dave.
Looking for great comedy?
It's true. I am the master.
You're in the right neighborhood.
Boom! Hey! Oh, well. Let the fake friendliness continue.
The Neighborhood, weeknights on CW17.
What are you doing up there? Staying alive.
Go get your freak out.
That's spooky.
Young Sheldon, weeknights on CW17.
Mike, Harvey. Boom. Good to have you back where you belong.
Hey, am I Spock or Kirk? Uhura. Walks right into it.
Yeah, baby. Butch and Sundance are back.
You got to give the people what they want.
Suits, weeknights at 10 on CW17.
Local news is most important. I'm raising a family here. I'd like to stay up to date on everything.
I'm so glad you were able to come in. This is our meeting for the evening. This is our News4JAX insider, Lauren, throwing out story ideas.
I was led through an incredible experience. I did feel a lot of transparency and authenticity. I had no distrust when it came, so I only am more impressed now.
Become a local VIP with News4JAX Insider. Behind-the-scenes access, live Q&As with anchors, exclusive weather tools, first dibs on local discounts and events. Sign up and sign in to News4JAX Insider, Channel 4, the local station.
Football's newest show breaks down all things NFL 5 days a week. It's football for everyone.
Weekdays on CW17.
Business is booming in the River City. What's driving the money here? And how can that growth impact your pockets? This week in Jacksonville Business Edition, streaming on News4JAX Plus.
Go to news4jax.com/insider and become a VIP today.
The Florida Aquarium is preparing for Hurricane Milton by taking its marine life to safer places to stay during the storm. These are endangered sea turtles that washed inland when Helene hit. The aquarium is moving more than 4,000 corals to Atlanta. Key Biscayne, and West Palm Beach. Penguins are also being relocated, but they'll stay with each other to ride out the storm together.
Along the Gulf Coast, piles of debris still line the streets after Hurricane Helene flooded homes earlier this month. Here's a look at debris along the streets of Treasure Island. This area right on Florida's Gulf Coast, the same area expected to take a direct hit from Milton. You can see how high the piles of debris are, just feet away from homes, apartments, and other buildings. The state and locals scrambling to get that taken to local dumps.
What a pile. Wow. Well, the Florida Gators 3-2. Georgia Bulldogs 4-1. The Florida State Seminoles 1-5.
News for Jax sports anchor Alessandra Pomprion and sports analyst Frank Frangie talking about all three teams in tonight's Campus Corner.
Help.news4jax.com and search your topic or issue. You can also go to news4jax.com and click in the corner for help. If you've got questions, we've got you covered at the News4Jax Help Center. Become a local VIP with News4Jax Insider, behind-the-scenes access, live Q&As with anchors, exclusive weather tools, first dibs on local discounts and events. Sign up and sign in to News4Jax Insider, Channel 4, the local station. Exact Track 4D, tracking and dissecting storms down to your street.
What is GMFB overtime?
It's this, that, and a whole lot of 5 days a week.
Let's go. Here we go.
It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 on CW17.
I watch News for Jax because I like to be informed. Would love to see how you guys fact check things. Hi, welcome to News for Jax. Thank you. I'm Joy. Pleasure to meet you, Joy. I'm Makita.
We're all getting ready for news time.
This is the iTeam story we've been doing about that stinky water.
And what I really wanted to know is how you guys fact check.
Finding different sources that can confirm the same information.
I learned a little bit of information that I don't think I would have grabbed via Google to learn how you guys validate information that is received or tips that come in with something that I don't think I've heard from anybody.
The News for Jax app got an update. Now you can join the conversation by commenting on stories. Get the news you want with a customizable home screen. Enjoy a better video experience and easy to find live stream for up-to-the-date information. Download the News for Jax app today.
When live news wraps for the morning on Channel 4, the conversation continues on News4Jax Plus. At 10, go beyond the headlines with unique perspectives from the anchors you know and trust with the latest weather updates to plan your day. Live on the Morning Show Plus. Then at 10:15, a community deep dive with River City Plus.
I like to call it the River City After Party.
Stay informed and stay connected. Mornings on News4Jax Plus.
You know what's not so fun? Finding out about an event after it happens. Stay in the loop with our News for Jax Insiders newsletter. Our exclusive newsletter hits your inbox every week with food tips, important information you need to know about parking, all kinds of good stuff. Become an insider today.
The Weather Authority, tracking Milton.
You could win $5,000 and so much more. Watch Bob Hart's Abachola and look for the flavor of the day. Text it to 55225 or visit bobharts.com.
That is wonderful.
Bob Hart's Abachola.
Weekdays on CW17.
Go to news4jax.com/insider and become a VIP today.
Well, this past weekend was a wild weekend for college football. But let's start with talking about the winners. The Florida Gators, they're 3-2. They have a winning record right now.
Won 2 games in a row. Go figure. There were 2 different games that Florida played on Saturday night against UCF, Alessandra. It was really kind of weird. The first half, they looked like a different team. They played with tempo. They played with rhythm. They raced to the line. There wasn't all this shifting and clapping and taking your time. They played very fast on offense, and they crowded the line on defense, and they got out to a 24-3 lead over UCF. The second half was kind of old Billy Napier again. Slow. They played slow on offense. They didn't crowd the line on defense, so who cares? The Gators needed to win a game that a lot of people thought they weren't going to win. That's a good win for Billy Napier. He still has an uphill climb, man. It is a brutally hard schedule, including or starting with this week. But so far, so good. They've only lost twice. They've won 3 of the last 4 and 2 in a row, so good for the Gators.
Well, hopefully that win streak for you Gator fans can increase to 3 games, but they have a very tough test going to Tennessee, who's ranked in the top 10 this weekend.
And a ticked-off Tennessee team, because
That's
Tennessee
right.
just lost on the road at Arkansas, so now they're mad. Tennessee, listen, Florida is 26-8 against Tennessee since they started playing every year in 1990. Even since Steve Spurrier's been gone, they're 18-4 against Tennessee. The Vols never beat the Gators. This might be the year they take all that out on them. This might be the year they're a 17-point favorite. They could run Florida out of the gym there. The Gators have to try and stay in that home and at night. Tough challenge for the Gators.
The Georgia Bulldogs. They beat Auburn in the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Pretty good game, especially for Auburn, who's not having a very good season. But Georgia continuously showing that they're one of the best in the nation. They increased the AP Top 25 poll because of it.
Yeah, Georgia's very methodical. Obviously, Georgia's smarting a little bit, too, from that obviously dramatic loss to Bama. But Georgia still has a good team. Georgia's a team that even if they're kind of just stumbling around a little bit, they stumbled around against Kentucky and hung on to win. They stumbled around early on against Alabama, and even though they came back, they couldn't come back fast enough. They stumbled around a little bit in this game, too. But Georgia can flip a switch, and they can go from a 1-point game to leading by 3 touchdowns, and that's what happened against Auburn's really struggling, by the way, under Hugh Freeze. I thought they'd be better.
The Georgia Bulldogs are hosting the Mississippi State Bulldogs this weekend. And when we watched Florida against Mississippi State, I mean, Mississippi State is not a good team right now.
No, they bounced back the week after losing to Florida and hung around with Texas for about 2.5 quarters before the Longhorns pulled away. So this will be an easy one for the Dogs, the Georgia Bulldogs.
Florida State, they get this week off. Next week, they play Duke on Friday. So Friday night lights for the Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah, I would say this. Look, Florida State's not very good. We're all shocked. It's one of the shocking stories in college football that they went from 13-0 in the regular season, 13-1 overall, to being one of the worst teams in the country. And I'm shocked that they're one of the worst teams in the country, certainly one of the worst records in the country. But I thought they battled against Clemson. They came back. I thought Brock Glenn showed a little something. I thought, look, he's got to be their quarterback. DJ Uiagalelei is down for a while anyway, but they need to play the young guy. Brock Glenn's not great, but I think he's got a toughness to him. Jordan Travis is a big fan. He was on the sideline talking about him. I think Brock Glenn played better than I thought he would. They got back in that game. Now, they couldn't win it. They got it to 10 points, and then Clemson put it away. But I thought FSU played with some toughness and with some moxie in that game. It's going to be a hard year. I mean, they've already lost all these games. They've still got to play at Miami. They've still got to play at Notre Dame. I don't know. They could beat Florida in the season ender at home. But right now, Florida State's got to take it one game at a time and play a little better. I thought Brock Glenn was better than I thought he would be.
Rebuilding year maybe for the Seminoles. Frank, thank you so much, and thank you for watching Campus Corner.
A final check with Richard before we leave you for tonight.
I have simplified things to basically what the quarter is going to be. We're going to have the wind and the rain. You'll have to imagine the wind part here. I couldn't get a way to figure that in. But here we go. We've got the rain that's going to be spreading through during the evening hours and really ramping up. We haven't made landfall yet. It's only Wednesday at 7:30. Here it comes. This would be, I believe that was our 8 o'clock time. So now we're closer to 2:15. And this is where we'll be sitting somewhere in and around, possibly still south of Tampa. We'll look for any kind of shifts. There's our Category 1. This is at 8 o'clock in the morning. Look at this slug of rain here stretching from Orlando all the way up through the world's most famous beach in Daytona there, Volusia County. And the heavy and the moderate stuff still reaching areas of St. John's, Flagler, and it pokes over. There's Gainesville, so you got Putnam County in between. This is why when I was just showing you the rainfall estimates that I do believe we're still going to see the heaviest here to the south. The impact is still going to be felt beachside with what will be the whipping wind. We're going to have the lighter rain coming through, and that's at 5:30. And look at this. This is midnight, getting into early Friday morning. There's Friday after sunrise through the evening. So it's really going to be through the day on Friday where we start to get the real improvements coming through. So we put some distance between us and Milton starts to weaken, eventually Category 1, and then to a tropical storm as it heads back out into the deep water. Kent and Joy?
All right, Richard, thanks. And as Richard always says, don't be fooled by just those lines showing us where that cone is.
Yeah, lots to consider there, but the biggest thing is take seriously the warnings that you've been hearing the last several days about how to prepare for this hurricane.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, next newscast, the morning show, beginning at 4:30, and news anytime you find online or on our apps. Go to newsforjax.com.